let's lighten the mood. We got some good news. We're gonna give everybody good news because we get all heated and stuff. But we got this story right here. Check this out. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller is released from the brig today. Marine who was jailed for criticizing Afghanistan withdrawal goes free after landslide of public support. The military said his lawyers reached an agreement with the Marines. He was put in confinement last Monday after posting a video criticizing the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Scheller condemned the kinetic effort that killed 13 service members. So he kept speaking. They told him, if you don't shut up, we're going to lock you in the brig. And he said, I'm not going to shut up. So they lock him in the brig.
Good for him.
Yeah. Bravo. This is a guy who stood up, who risked everything and said, lock me up. I'm not backing down. So what does this show us? It's not about just Stuart Scheller. It's about massive public support. There was a wave of support saying, don't do this. You can't do this. He raised millions of dollars from fans who were supporting him, whatever his politics. Apparently, he doesn't like Trump supporters or whatever. I'm not concerned with that. He stood up. He challenged the unaccountable, these military leaders, people like Milley who are crackpots, and he got punished for it. He got attacked for it. Well, now he's being released. I hope he comes out, squeaky clean. I hope he makes a good living. I hope he writes a book. I hope he finds a career in standing up and speaking out against the corruption and unaccountability that we have in our government and our military and all that stuff. But anyway, the good news here is, aside from his release, you can do it, right? It's possible to win.
Well, we're going to see what's going to happen with that particular case, but it's daunting that he was the only one punished over the whole Afghanistan debacle. Over everything that happened, the one person held responsible, the one person that the rules actually applied to was a guy sitting back and making a YouTube video.
No,
hold on. Facebook video, excuse me.
You said held responsible and rules applied to? I disagree. I think he didn't. Okay, maybe the rules are arguably being broken. But he's not being held responsible. What was he responsible for? Saying that we should, as a country, live up to our ideals and our standards?
And hold our leaders accountable for their horrible actions.
That's the foundation of this country.
Yeah.
Not something to be held responsible for. That's something to be cherished for.
Yeah, well, I misspoke there, and I agree with you on that sentiment. But when we look at Afghanistan, my goodness, the utter mess, the utter distraction. I mean, this couldn't get any worse than you could even imagine it to be, especially with the drone bombing of an innocent aid worker and 7 children. I mean, when you have actions committed like this, and then the guy criticizing it goes to jail, and then you get propped up, you get to lie on national media, say that you went after ISIS-K, whatever that propaganda term means, whatever made-up invention the Pentagon just came out of thin air just to justify this bullcrap. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
They bombed the house, civilians.
Yeah, they bombed a car with 7 children inside of it, and an aid worker that was working for a U.S. organization that was delivering water and aid to local communities. He was a person that was well respected in Afghanistan for helping people who needed help, and the U.S. bombed him and then lied about him and said he was trying to kill people because he was filling up waters in his back. They knowingly lied to everyone with this larger propaganda story, and then this is the same president that did this that is calling people like Putin killers.
You know, the problem is if we're going to consider this like a really inept, malicious military experience, like the whole U.S. government is just fallaciously dangerous. Let's just say.
Yeah, they armed the Taliban with billions of dollars of machine guns and weaponry, things that I wish I could own and have that I will never be able to have because of government regulations the Taliban now has with my tax dollars.
I think my problem is that we're using state-funded propaganda media right now. Google, I'm talking to you, Alphabet, to talk about it, and that's a big problem because if you're going to use the Nazis' propaganda to bash the Nazis, it's not going to go very far. And I know I can't say what I want to say on this TV show because of censorship. This is like the worst military debacle in the last 100 years. I don't know. The last 20 years of war, Afghanistan, America, the United States, the greatest country ever.
Yeah, it was all ruse. It was all based on lies, and the military-industrial complex milked it to the last drop until even to the point where the Afghanistan papers came out, when the Washington Post even released documentation showing that it's all a scam. Nothing's happening here. No one's being trained. No one's being helped. There's no mission here. No one knows what's going on here. Years ago. It still continued. And when it was ended, I think, deliberately bad for a very specific reason. And it could have been ended totally differently. There could have been different approaches, and it's just mind-boggling. But
we've had the Afghanistan conversation 50 times.
Yeah.
The issue here was the optimism that this guy who spoke up has been released.
Yeah, but it's like a story that's like, the headline might as well be, man stops beating his wife.
That's
good point.
You got a good point there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see the optimism in that.
Well, at least he stopped.
Yeah,
Exactly.
True. Correct, yeah.
After a large public campaign, he agreed to stop beating his wife for now.
But it shows you, again, the politicization of the security state, the politicization of anyone who speaks out against the agenda, against the narrative. They want people fearful. They want people afraid to speak out. They want people afraid to stand up. They want people to buckle down and be afraid of them.
We need Google and Alphabet on our side. And I know there are people, I know you're listening, and you believe us, and you believe me, and we need you.
I think that was actually a really profound point that you made about
Yeah.
because I think it in some ways it attests to how hungry we are for some like scruple of good news, just like one good like silver lining to focus on for a minute.
And it's actually like watching someone dig a hole, and then when you hear that they filled the hole, we're like, yay, the hole was filled. But it's like the person caused the problem in the first place, So yeah, thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
I was all excited.
I'm out. Jeez. Actually, I think I have to go to the bathroom, which is also I'm so agitated right now.
Keep
Be
it
back,
real,
lovers.
Yeah.
I was like, this is some good news. This guy's getting released. I mean, look, it is still good news because we expect people who challenge the machine and the establishment to speak out against unaccountable leaders to get punished permanently. And there was a big, a cry of support for this guy, and he did get out. And there are a lot of people who aren't, facing that same, level of relief, I guess. There are a lot of people who have challenged the machine and get locked up for it for a long time. And I don't mean, violent individuals. I mean like people who speak up, and get punished. We don't hear about in the news. Mm-hmm. So this just shows that if people do come together, victory is achievable, as much as Ian made a good point. I look at what happens in New York with the vaccine mandates, and they say only 10 violations so far. Okay, 21,000 inspections. They didn't find anything. They got 5,800 warnings, 10 violations. That says to me, because we had Ariel on the show the other day saying that she doesn't get carded by anybody. She goes wherever she wants.
Yeah.
That says to me that if people just said no, it would be done with, and you would win. What people aren't. Some people are, but more people need to.
Well, it's all about the illusion of power. And if you could convince enough people that you do have authority over them, you will. And I think this is the kind of silver lining. This is the kind of balance that a lot of these politicians are playing. They're like, we need to scare the crap out of these people. We need to make examples out of people. We need to punish people for going against us. And I think this is the stage we're at now because people are seeing how delicate and how vulnerable this entire state is and how easily everyone who could just say, hey, I'm not going to comply here, that they can't really do anything because there's more of us than they are of them. And even if you add up the police, even if you add up the military, there's a lot more citizenry. There's a lot more people who are willing to do the right thing, stand up. I'm still optimistic in some ways. I think we still need optimism. Just even if we were still in a very bad position, I think being optimistic is still important. Because the way that you see things or the way that things kind of usually kind of play out, especially in your mind is extremely powerful. If you think resistance is futile, it is.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what they're trying to convince you of right now. It's futile. You're going to lose. Look at what we're, they're like stomping on people's personal freedoms and liberties. Look at what we could get away with. And in reality, it's kind of a desperate, insecure dance that they're doing right now.
I don't think that there's a bad outcome in whatever's happening. I don't see a bad outcome.
Really?
I mean, maybe for a lot of people, they don't want to live a different way than they live, and they're comfortable ordering their pizza and wings and watching football, but life's going to change. For me, I'm like, all right, let's just imagine some scenarios. Joe Biden is the most divisive president ever, or you could say Trump and Biden were very divisive for whatever reason. I don't think it's Trump's fault. I think the media did it, but I think Trump certainly was divisive. Then you get 2024, Trump runs again. The left loses it. John Podesta gets his wish. The West Coast secedes from the Union. The country falls apart. What happens? I don't know. If you live in Texas, you don't got to worry about the ATF anymore. And you can have all these guns. If you live in New Hampshire, you got freedom. If you live in New York, congratulations. Your mandates are law. Everybody's taxes go down substantially.
The federal government is too powerful and needs to be at least have its power kind of taken back to the states. And I think that
Yes.
if anything great, I thought as I was relieving myself in the bathroom that
Thanks,
it is good. Not only are you funny, but also that the public outcry, man, the power of public outcry. If that can overcome the military, then that's a good sign.
I think it's happening. You know, like we said with California, sanctuary state shows the emperor has no clothes. Texas says ATF no business here. Ohio says it too. I'm just like, the federal government, yeah, they're panicking because they know their power is just, it's an illusion.
What are you going to say, Lydia?
So I just wanted to push back a little bit because I feel like what the states are doing, like what California is doing with the border, I think it's terrible, but they're doing it. And what Texas is doing, what Ohio is doing with the ATF, I'm not convinced it's like a form of divorce. I think it's states just asserting their rights as states. I view this as being a very good thing. I'm a huge fan of the 10th Amendment. And I think that if we were to strip it all back to the states simply upholding the duties that they're supposed to, we would be in a much better place without needing any kind of national divorce. I think that states just need to take that responsibility and get back to it.
One of the things that concerns me is not the federal government, really, is that it's the deep state, the administrative state, like the CIA. Where are they based? They say it's the Pentagon,
Langley.
right? Langley, they say it's Langley. It's probably underground somewhere, and it's all decentralized, and like they have satellites and control of weapons and crazy lasers, and like, how do you work against that, or do you work with it? Is that the point?
No idea. Reminds me of that Star Trek Into Darkness, the secret military base where they're building the gigantic war machine. You ever see that movie? Oh, come on.
Nope.
Pop culture reference.
Nope. That's it.
I'm not pessimistic. You know, every day when I'm recording my videos, I look out the window and there's deer and the leaves are falling. And I'm out here in the middle of nowhere and I'm like, dude, the federal government doesn't have the ability to go state to state and enforce 90% of what they want to. They can only go after outliers. And so when Joe Biden goes nuts and basically violates the law, I'm not saying I oppose the federal government or anything like that. I actually think America's fantastic. I'm just saying they've revealed they have no clothes. The more this stuff carries on, the more Antifa is violent, the more the states reject federal law. The federal government is just freaking out. It's like you got a leak. If you're in a boat and a leak springs and you can walk over and you can patch that hole up as long as it's the only hole. But like in the cartoons, more and more holes start popping up and the feds have no ability to actually go and deal with all of them. Then eventually the boat sinks. I don't think we're headed towards anywhere dark though. New Hampshire wants to be, you know, independent, I suppose. Texas probably does. For the most part, people probably wouldn't even notice or care. Other than, if you're in New Hampshire, your avocado is probably going to get more expensive.
Unless you have a trade route going down to Florida or Mexico, and you're able to establish free trading lines with good
avocado
homestead
road,
and
they'll
communities. Yeah, I mean, it's all about the connections you have, the communities, the neighborhoods, the friendships you have. That's one part why I try to travel as much as I can to try to stay at as many homesteads as I can, as many farms as I can, to try to build and harbor good relationships, because I think that's going to be something that's going to be absolutely critically important, and that's why I see the federal government trying to stop that at any way that they can, in the most dastardly way that they can. And there's an attack on cash, there's an attack on liberty, there's an attack on personal responsibility, and that's because when you get rid of all those things, you'll need subjugated slaves that will obey the government at all costs.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.